Money laundering and terrorist financing. What is money laundering? Money laundering involves taking criminal proceeds and disguising their illegal sources in order to use the funds to perform legal or illegal activities. Simply put, money laundering is the process of making dirty money look clean. When a criminal activity generates substantial profits, the individual or group involved must find a way to use the funds without drawing attention to the underlying activity or persons involved in generating such profits. Criminals achieve this goal by disguising the source of funds, changing the form or moving the money to a place where it is less likely to attract attention. The United Nations 2000 Convention Against the Transnational Organized Crime, also known as the Palmero Convention, defines money laundering as the conversion or transfer of property, knowing it is derived from a criminal offense, for the purpose of concealing or disguising its illicit origin, or of assisting any person who is involved in the commission of the crime to evade the legal consequences of his or her actions. The concealment or disguise of the true nature, source, location, disposition, movements, rights with respect to or ownership of a property, knowing that it is derived from a criminal offense. The acquisition, possession or use of property, knowing at the time of its receipt that it was derived from a criminal offense or from participation in a crime. Money laundering based on the Federal Decree Law number 20 of 2018 on anti-money laundering and combating the financing of terrorism and financing of illegal organizations. Money laundering is any of the acts mentioned in Clause 1 of Article 2 of the present Decree Law. Article 2 is any person having the knowledge that the funds are the proceeds of a felony or a misdemeanor, and who willfully commits any of the following acts, shall be considered a perpetrator of the crime of money laundering: transferring or moving proceeds or conducting any transaction with the aim of concealing or disguising their illegal source; concealing or disguising the true nature, source, or location of the proceeds, as well as the method involving their disposition, movement, ownership of, or right with respect to said proceeds; acquiring, possessing, or using proceeds upon receipt; assisting the perpetrator of the predicate offense to escape punishment. Stages of money laundering. Money laundering often involves a complex series of transactions that are difficult to separate. However, it is common to think of money laundering as occurring in three stages: placement, layering, and integration. Stage 1 of money laundering is placement. A placement is the physical disposal of cash or other assets that are derived from criminal activities. During this phase, the money launderer introduces the illicit proceeds into the financial systems. Often this is accomplished by placing the funds into circulation through formal financial institutions and other legitimate businesses, could be both domestically or internationally. Examples of placement transactions could include blending of funds, by commingling of illegitimate funds with legitimate funds, such as placing the cash from illegal narcotics sales into a cash-intensive locally owned restaurant; foreign exchange, by purchasing of foreign exchange with illegal funds; and breaking up amounts, that's by placing cash in small amounts and depositing them into numerous bank accounts in an attempt to evade reporting requirements. Currency smuggling, cross-border physical movement of cash or monetary instruments. Loans, repayment of legitimate loans using laundered cash. Stage 2 of money laundering is layering. Layering is the separation of illicit proceeds from their source by layers of financial transactions that are intended to conceal the origin of the proceeds. This second stage involves converting the proceeds of the crime into another form and creating complex layers of financial transactions to obscure the source and ownership of funds. Examples of layering transaction could include electronically moving funds from one country to another and dividing them into advanced financial options and markets, moving funds from one financial institution to another or within accounts at the same institution, converting the cash placed into monetary instruments, reselling high-value goods and prepared accesses, stored value products, investing in real estate and other legitimate businesses, placing money in stocks, bonds, or life insurance products, using shell companies to obscure the ultimate beneficial owners and/or assets. Stage 3 is integration. Integration is supplying apparent legitimacy to illicit wealth through the re-entry of the funds into the economy in what appears to be normal business or personal transactions. The launderer, for instance, might choose to invest the funds in real estate, financial ventures, or luxury assets. By the integration stage, it is exceedingly difficult to distinguish between legal and illegal wealth. Examples of integration transactions could include purchasing luxury assets like property, artwork, jewelry, or high-end automobiles, or getting into financial arrangements or other ventures where investment can be made in business enterprises. Terrorist financing is an act by any person who, by any means, directly or indirectly, willfully provides or collects funds or attempts to do so with the intention or knowledge that they are to be used to carry out a terrorist act or by a terrorist or by a terrorist organization. Financing terrorism based on the Federal Decree Law Number 20 of 2018 on anti-money laundering and combating the financing of terrorism and financing of illegal organizations. Article 3 is guilty of the crime of financing terrorism whoever intentionally commits any of the following: any of the acts specified in Clause 1 of Article 2 of the present decree law if he is aware that the proceeds are wholly or partly owned by a terrorist organization or a terrorist person or intended to finance a terrorist organization, a terrorist person, or a terrorism crime, even if it without the intention to conceal or disguise their illicit origin. Providing, collecting, preparing, or obtaining proceeds or facilitating their obtainment by others with intent to use them, or while knowing that such proceeds will be used in whole or in part for the commitment of a terrorist offense, or if he has committed such acts on behalf of a terrorist organization or a terrorist person while aware of the true background or purpose. Stages of terrorist financing. The first stage is raising the funds. The source of funds could be legitimate, such as a salary, or it could be originated from illegal acts. Deceiving people to legally raise funds by using non-profit organizations and raising donations. The second stage is moving the funds by wire transfers, by structuring the funds, and by cash smuggling, using debit, credit, and prepaid cards, and by hawaladars. The final stage is using the funds. Then the funds are used to fund the terrorist acts and for the terrorist expenses such as food, rent, and travel. Money laundering and terrorist financing has significant economic and social consequences, which include increased exposure to organized crime and corruption, undermining the legitimate private sector, weakening financial institutions, damping effect on foreign investments, loss of control or mistakes made in decision regarding economic policy, loss of tax revenue, risks to privatization efforts, reputation risk for the country, risk of international sanctions, social cost, and legal risks. Thank you all for listening.